Hello, welcome to this RavenView tutorial. This tutorial is intended to introduce you to new functionality within RavenView. Specifically, we're going to look at how we can access Water Survey of Canada stream gauge data anywhere in the country, and also visualize this data using the new time series plotting functions that are available now in RavenView. To access Water Survey of Canada data, we click here on Data Explorer. No Raven model is required. And if we zoom out a little bit here, we can see that we have access to all of the historical Water Survey of Canada stream gauge data. We can zoom into any single location and choose a site. We're going to choose here Poplar River at the outlet of Weaver Lake, and we can click downloading the hydrograph as an RVT. Once we do that, we hit refresh here, and we can click this hydrograph in the right-hand bar, and we see we have a time series of flows. It looks like this gauge started around 1968 and ran until 1997. It was off for a while, and then it's been rebooted recently. We can open up this visualization tool and maximize it so we can see a longer, see this zoomed in on, and we can step through some of the functions that we have available to us. On the right-hand side of the plotting tool here, we see we have a variety of different icons. If we choose this one here, we can look at a day of year quartile plot. What this does is it plots the historical flows for any given day of year, plots the median, the 25 percentile, 75 percentile, and the minimum and maximum flows for that day of year. We can see here that we have a dominant freshet in May and June. If we go to the right again, we can choose the flow duration curve, which shows the exceedance probability of each flow, high flows on the left, low flows on the right. For any one of these plots, we can choose this download tool, and this will be reported and downloadable as a CSV file, which will have the X and Y values of any one of these plots. Third tool we'll look at is the flow heat map. If we click on that, this shows years along the y-axis and day of year along the x-axis. And if we hover above this, we can see the magnitude of any flow on any given day. So this, in the bottom right-hand corner, we can see that on June 10th, 1979, we had a flow magnitude of 302 cubic meters per second. Lastly, we can choose the spaghetti plot tool. This can take a little bit of time, depending on the length of the record, which shows you a spaghetti plot of each individual year. So we can see that the maximum flow occurred in 2021, and the next largest flow occurred in 1978. You can skip through any one of our years. If we return here to the basic time series plot, we can see that we have a few additional features here. So I'm going to zoom in. We can zoom in horizontally or vertically by just dragging over the display. We can shift leftward or rightward, so earlier in time or later in time with these buttons here on the time series plot. We can also transform the data. So for instance, we can look at the log value of our discharges by checking the log checkbox. We can take the derivatives of whatever is in the plot. So this is the cubic meters per second per day derivative of flow. We can look at cumulative flows over time. So this is the integrated flow from the start of the time record to the end of the record. We can look at moving averages, which in this case is not particularly interesting. Those moving averages just kind of, this is a 7-day moving average applied across the entire time period. We can plot the deviation from mean, which is not particularly interesting for hydrographs, but is very useful for reservoir or lake stage plots, where our observed and simulated values may have different datums. And we can also apply a threshold. So we can use the slider bar here to apply a threshold flow magnitude, and it will, for instance, tell us the percentage of values above that threshold and highlight the flows in exceedance of that threshold on the plot. Lastly, we can go over here and use this download file button in our right-hand file menu, and this will download that time series of water survey candidate data as an RVT file that can be directly used in a Raven model. Thank you, and I hope you've enjoyed this quick tour through the new functionality in RavenView.